What is up guys, Taigi here. Welcome to a private video for November 1st. In this video, I'll be discussing Popsicle Finance, why I'm bullish Luna, addressing some, Harmony FUD, my thoughts on Secret, and the Fantom Ecosystem, right? So, so let's start out with Popsicle Finance. I mean, obviously, we have to celebrate with some music, because VIP, very important Popsicle. Now, this is bullish, right? I mean, hold on. Okay, I'll stop. Okay, so obviously this is bullish, right? We just had roughly a 40% correction, right? And then we're just like hitting all-time highs. I would ignore this wick because it's mostly someone got sandwich attacked, but I think it did hit like roughly $40 to $41 at some point. And there's a lot of hype around, I guess the entire thing, because apparently there's gonna be, hold on, let's close this. There's gonna be a Frog radio show with Danny tomorrow, and Danny has been hyping up, he's been hyping up ICE like today, like he's like bull posting, right? So I'm assuming that he knows, or I mean, of course he knows, right? But I'm assuming it's probably gonna be launched today, maybe launched today to explain tomorrow, or maybe it's gonna be launched with this episode of Frog Radio tomorrow. But anyways, there's a lot of hype, and it's justified, right? I mean, we've been waiting patiently for this moment, right? Because I think I talked about Popsicle Finance. When did I talk about Popsicle Finance? Maybe like three to 4 weeks ago. Who knows? But essentially, I had a thesis in mind. I think it's gonna flip Wi-Fi, right? It's a better product. Similarly to how Spell flipped Maker, right? I think it's reasonable to expect Wise to flip Wi-Fi just because it's a better product, it's a better tokenomic model, and I mean the community is super strong, right? Of course, this is assuming that there aren't any exploits, but if you look at the product that like Wi-Fi has and compare to what Popsicle is going to have, right? Assuming everything that they say is true, right? And I wouldn't doubt Danny and the team. I don't really see a scenario where it wouldn't flip Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is a yield aggregator on the Ethereum mainnet. They recently are expanding to the Fantom ecosystem, right? They recently did it. They're not fully live yet, but they're trying to expand to multi-chain. However, at 1.2 billion, I do think that Popsicle will flip them. So right now, Popsicle is at 450 million, right? I mean, price might fluctuate because today is super volatile. But they're still less than 100. Still less than 50% out of Wi-Fi, which is interesting because if you go to the Yearn Finance application on Ethereum, you look at these rates and you're like who the hell is like depositing into these things, right? Like 1.93% on Bitcoin, 143 million. I mean, sure, there's like some use to that, but I mean, I don't really see why Wi-Fi is gonna still be the winner. Like let's say 6 months from now, right? There's gonna be better yield aggregators that come over time, and I do think that Popsicle is one of them. Maybe Popsicle isn't the winner 2 years from now, right? But in the short term, I do think that it's gonna it's gonna capture a lot of mind share, and I do think that people will be surprised by the APRs that they're gonna provide. Of course, this is all speculation, right? I'm just a person that listened to a bunch of podcasts, read a lot of things, and I'm just going off of what the team has said. But you don't want to bet against the track record of Frog Nation and Danny and the team. Abracadabra, obviously, they went from 0 to flipping Maker. Wonderland, right? They went from nothing to where they are now, and then Popsicle. So I wouldn't bet against that. So in terms of my plan, I'm planning to stake half of my ICE for a long time. And when I say long time, right, of course this is crypto, right? A long time can be 2 months. So I expect to stake my ICE until 22 and beyond, right? Depending on how the market looks, it's hard for me to say, but I might stake it for a lot longer as well. And I'll keep the other half liquid to take profits over time. Ideally, in an ideal world, I don't sell until January of next year to delay my taxes. But obviously, I'm not going to have that mentality for altcoins such as Popsicle. Even though I am bullish, you still have to be responsible and take profits, right? So before I touch on the Luna ecosystem, I'm just going to talk about the fact that I'm not going to sell, right? So I'm not going to sell anytime soon. Because I do think it's undervalued, right? I just said to you that I think it's gonna flip Maker, right? So I do think this gets to at least $1 billion in TVL, or maybe Wi-Fi just dumps in Popsicle flips that way. But this is what's gonna happen, right? So it's gonna go up, everyone's gonna call me a genius, and then everyone's like, oh my god, Taiki, are you gonna sell? Are you gonna sell? Oh, okay. Are you gonna sell? Don't worry, my hands are pretty strong, and I don't really see myself, I guess, paper handing this. Unless something in the fundamentals change, right? Unless they get exploited, obviously that's going to be super bearish. And I mean, if that happens, I just I'm probably going to lose like 80-90%. And also, I mean, I'm not going to like, I don't think it's going to happen. Like, they got so many audits and they're like super careful with this relaunch. Or if the APRs are disappointing, which I don't think is likely either. Yeah, sure, like if the fundamentals change, I might take profits earlier. But if everything is as advertised, like $69 Popsicle is going to be meme to existence, and even 3-figure Popsicle isn't like too crazy to think about. But obviously, I'm going to be taking profits with my liquid stack over time. So let's kind of go over the Luna ecosystem. I think I covered the Popsicle finance well enough. Let's just wait for tomorrow. I think Frog Radio might be something crazy, right? It's super hyped up. So my second highest conviction bet in crypto right now is the Luna ecosystem. And when I talk about conviction, let's just assume that Bitcoin and ETH, right? I'm always gonna be convicted on Bitcoin and ETH, right? So assuming that like that's not in the rankings, it's gonna be like Popsicle highest conviction, right? It's been, I guess, Popsicle and DeFi Kingdoms like highest conviction, but I guess we're talking the shorter time frames. Popsicle and then Luna ecosystem. So the reason for that is that there are clear catalysts coming in the Luna ecosystem coming up, and I've often mentioned, hey, like I'm bullish Luna, I love Luna, but I just don't own enough Luna, right? So because I raised some cash by selling Fantom, I feel comfortable, just dollar cost averaging into Luna, and yeah, this key catalyst coming up is first is Mars. Now I don't know when this is coming out, hopefully in November, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna launch in Q4. Oh god, something in my eye. Okay, anyways. Yes, so Mars is going to be a money market on steroids. They're going to be enabling a bunch of assets as collateral. I'm not sure what they're going to launch with, but word on the street is that they're going to be enabling like assets like AUST as collateral, right? So you can use AUST, which is an interest-bearing stablecoin, and you can borrow against it, right, and do whatever you want with that. Or maybe you can like keep looping it, right? Like AUST, borrow USD, AUST, redeposit, borrow USD. You can do all that stuff too. You'll also be able to use stocks as collateral, right? So you kind of have to have a grander vision of what this actually means. Imagine a world where like right now, like I use Bitcoin and ETH as collateral, right? And I feel totally happy doing that. But if you want to go more risk off, I feel like using like Apple stock as collateral is going to be crazy, right? Because Apple, sure, like maybe it appreciates like 10% a year or something, right, on average. But being able to use less volatile assets as collateral, right, that isn't just pure stablecoins, I think is going to be really, really important. And when they do launch, I do think it's going to be one of the things that the Terra ecosystem needs. Because Anchor, yeah, they're kind of a money market, right? But they only have ETH and Luna as collateral. Sure, they're gonna have like more B assets such as like BSOL, B Atom, B Dot, etc. But I think Mars is going to be just a more key part of the Terra ecosystem. Second is Astroport. Astroport has also been hyped up, and they actually gave a date on when they're launching, which is going to be mid-November. And I think the Astro airdrop could be worth a decent amount. And one of the ways to, I guess, create excitement and hype around an ecosystem and to build a strong community is to make their early holders rich. Obviously, anyone that has held Luna is like up a lot of money, but I think making people rich through airdrops is also a good way too, assuming that the airdrop is going to be fairly distributed, right? Hopefully, Astro airdrop doesn't all go to the whales. Hopefully, it is fairly distributed. And I feel like the Astro airdrop can be a 4-figure airdrop, right? Maybe in the best case scenario, a 5-figure airdrop, and that could be a bullish catalyst. It could be fireworks. So before I touch on the Harmony ecosystem, let's kind of go over this post by Jose Maria Macedo. He's part of Delphi Digital Labs. Delphi Digital is like a consulting company. They're like advising a bunch of projects. I argue that they might be like one of the best like firms in crypto, right, in terms of like what they do and add value to ecosystems. So they're managing or they're advising Mars and Astroport, right, two protocols I'm bullish on. And if they're in Delphi's hands, then I feel comfortable that they're going to launch really, really well. So They're launching in mid-November, or at least that's what he says. And DEX is our core building block of any DeFi ecosystem. The launch of Astroport means Terra is going to have a best-in-class AMM, and I do agree. Right now, the only AMM on Terra is TerraSwap, right? And Mirror, right? They're the same thing. And they were built out of necessity. I mean, TerraSwap was never going to be like the #1 DEX forever, and Astroport, is going to flip them for sure. Like it's not even a question, right? Everyone knows this. Even the Mirror team, like they're going to be like, yeah, like, it's going to flip, like for sure. So the cool thing about Astroport is that they're going to have two types of curves, or actually more. They're going to have the standard X times Y equals K curve, right? Which is like what every DEX uses, right? They're also going to have stable swap curves, right? So similar to Curve, where you can it's more capital efficient to like swap between like assets. So they're going to have pools such as, I think they said it here, yeah. So it'll facilitate like a lower slippage way to swap between like assets such as Luna to B Luna. They're also going to integrate with Orion money. So if you don't know what Orion is, they're essentially trying to bring Anchor yields to other chains. So Harmony is going to offer 20% on stablecoins, and it's going to be through Anchor, I believe, or just through Terra and Orion. And also, you can actually use Orion on the Ethereum mainnet, right? You can actually earn, I believe, 13.5% on Ethereum mainnet depositing into Orion. So what Orion does in the back end is if you deposit USDC on Orion, in the back end, they're going to swap that for USD and then put it into Anchor, and then give you the yields. So through these stable swaps, Orion can take, I guess, USDC and swap more capital efficiently through Astroport, and then give better rates, right? So I don't know if the rates are going to be better, or if like Orion is going to just increase their revenues and whatnot, but I think Astroport is going to be a key building block of the Terra ecosystem, and add the airdrop in it, and I think it's going to be super cool. So they're also going to have LBPs, right? So this is a way for new tokens to launch. I think it's called liquidity balancer pools, where it kind of prevents like bots front running like whenever tokens do like those pre-sales. So I'm not gonna get into it too much. So you can do your own you can do your own research. But they're also gonna have Astro staking model where you can stake Astro to earn X Astro, like earn protocol fees. To be honest, if I get this airdrop, I'm gonna get this airdrop. Hopefully, I'm probably gonna stake Astro, right? I might even buy Astro depending on like how it launches. And I kind of expect. So I've often talked about how I think Terra is always going to be in front of Avalanche in terms of market cap, and Terra's number 4, but it's not. They're not actually number 4 because 3 billion is under Lido, and like Lido is not part of the Terra ecosystem. So they're actually Avalanche and Terra have similar TVLs. Let's wait for this to load. And the fact that the Terra ecosystem has this much TVL without any liquidity mining incentives. And with only like less than 10 applications deployed, just kind of shows you how strong the community is and how, I guess, highly valued the entire ecosystem is. So assuming that Terra is going to be higher market cap than Avalanche, you should expect that the leading DEX on Terra should be higher market cap than the leading DEX on Avalanche, right? So Joe, roughly a $300 million market cap. I think Astroport market cap is going to be higher than this. I don't know how it's going to launch, but I think the fair value is going to be, like whatever. It's going to be higher than Joe, right? Or it's going to be roughly Joe, right? At least, in my opinion. So that's kind of the way I think about it. And I do think it's going to be, it's going to be a bullish catalyst, right? So, and if paired with this, if Mars can launch like in late November or something, like that's going to be bang, 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 like fireworks, at least in my opinion. And lastly, I want to kind of talk over the Nexus Protocol, right? So right now, let's go to the dashboard or the vault. And so if you staked your Anchor, you probably have like $500 worth of these airdrops. But what you can do right now is they open some vaults. So what happens here is that if you take your B Luna or B ETH, you can put it into this vault, and you can earn 9% on Luna and 9% on ETH, which isn't that high. I guess for ETH it's pretty high, and I guess 9% on Luna is pretty good as well. He kind of goes over here, a hairy UST. Let's kind of go over, so what happens is if you deposit BE Luna, for example, right? You deposit B Luna, and Nexus will automatically borrow USD against for you and manage your LTV. What Nexus is going to allow you to do is, if you deposit, B Luna, it's going to borrow an amount, a safe amount, and it's going to auto delever your position for you. It's like Apricot Finance with like the Apricot Assist, where, you know, if Luna dumps 50% overnight and you have your funds on Anchor, you might get liquidated. But if you put it on Nexus Protocol, it's going to automatically delever your position for you. So, you know, even if we have a black swan event, your collateral is not going to get liquidated. So it's going to automatically manage it for you, and, you know, yield will be converted to the underlying asset, which is going to be BLuna/BETH. There's also going to be ways to provide liquidity for the Nexus tokens with an N asset, right? The N asset is like whatever you put into Nexus Protocol. So if you deposit B Luna here, I believe you get back N Luna. So it's similar to like UST, AUST, right? So you can have a yield bearing asset, which is here, B Luna, for example, and then you can provide liquidity with the PSI token. I don't have strong thoughts about the PSI token. I'm just like more bullish like the applications of this protocol. So, you know, I'm just bringing it to your attention in case you do want to farm this. To be honest, like I'm like super impressed by like what they're building, and, you know, this is kind of like the bullish case for Terra, right? Because they were able to, I mean, the previous all-time highs, I mean, we got to like, you know, $43, like when the token, when like apps were not even live, right? And now we're actually having apps deployed. You know, Terra is actually doing, Luna token's doing really well, actually. And with Nexus Protocol, it's like being built out. We also have Astroport coming, Mars coming, Levana too, right? Leverage any asset, right? You're going to have, I believe you can have tokens that have 2x leverage exposure, and you can provide liquidity with like Luna and whatnot. So, you know, generally bullish the Terra ecosystem. And the benefit of the Terra ecosystem is that there are like clear catalysts coming up, right? Like Astroport mid-November, you know, it's coming. So, you know, we actually have a date to look forward to. And I do argue that, hey, like, I think the market cap of Luna is like roughly 15 billion, and I do think it has potential to get to the top 5 at some point. Not anytime soon, right? Not anytime soon. But, you know, I do think it has the potential to get there. I'm not saying it's gonna get there, but I do think it has the potential to get there. Because I think it's misunderstood, and because Luna isn't that big in the United States, I just feel like people are just kind of overlooking it. Okay, that being said, let's go back to the Harmony ecosystem. Okay, let's go back. Right, so, okay, so if you look back to my very first video, I think September 7th, and I guess, you know, what I've been saying all this time, I've been saying, hey, I think a Harmony ecosystem rotation is for Q4 and Q1, right? So obviously, I mean, people are kind of like upset that tokens are dumping, but like, guys, it's a Q4 to Q1 rotation, right? The ecosystem is immature. That's why I said Q4 to Q1. It takes time to build out these ecosystems. Yes, Chainlink being delayed is annoying, but there's nothing we can do about that, right? So, you know, whatever happens in the short term is like, we're just like waiting, right? People, I guess, got too excited about Tranquil, or people just got too excited about like the L1 rotations in general. But I still argue that, you know, Harmony is relatively undervalued. Harmony is relatively undervalued compared to like something like Tezos. I feel like Tezos is like my benchmark of like something that's gonna be easier to flip, right? So like for any L1 that has like even like any success, I think it'll flip Tezos. So I've been getting I've been getting tagged everywhere about like, oh my god, like Taiki, are you gonna sell your jewel? I'm like, no, like what what, like I am not scared of this, right? Like, look at this. Like we started at like $1, and now we hit to $5, and we're $5.50, and now we're dipping below $3.50. I'm not too worried, right? This is a farm token, right? Like if your goal for Jewel is to like just buy it and like try to sell higher, that's not the point, right? This is a farm, right? This is in my opinion, this is a farm to accumulate farm. In my opinion, Jewel is a tank. And I am not looking at my position. I am not looking to sell my position. I've mentioned many times, I'm probably not going to touch this until January, right? To delay my taxes and whatnot. So just, I feel like people are panicking too much about, you know, just like the jewel dumping. Of course, it dumped more than 20%, but like why are people panicking? Like it depends what your plan was to begin with, right? Like, are you really scared of $3.50 jewel when this thing was like $1, like a month and a half ago, right? And with super high inflation. If you think about it, like think about how many tokens you have. Think about how many tokens I have. Everyone else has a bunch of tokens. So these sell-offs are expected. In fact, I was even like super surprised that it even got to $5. Like if this thing is trading at like $2, $3 in January of 2022, I would be euphoric, right? It just takes a different kind of mindset. When you're farming this, you don't need price to go up. You just need the price to remain relatively stable, right? If you're farming something for like 1,000% APR and the price remains flat, are you happy? Of course you're happy, right? Like, of course, I guess emotionally it feels a lot more painful because we just like went up a lot and then dumped a lot. But at the end of the day, like if you told me that the price of Jewel would be above $3 on November 1st, I would be doing backflips, right? It just takes a different mindset. And if that's not the type of mindset that you have, then yeah, you're probably in this farm for the wrong reasons. Or you just have way too much money invested, or you just like didn't think through, or you don't have a plan, right? You just have to have a plan. Because think about it, if Harmony is going to be ready in Q1, right? Because I've often talked about Q4 to Q1 rotation, and like I didn't expect Harmony to move this fast, this quickly, right? That's one of the reasons I didn't have exposure to Harmony, right? Because I was like, oh wow, like it ran off before me, but I'm not going to FOMO it. That's fine, right? You can't catch them all. So like if Harmony, let's say Harmony takes off in Q1, right? Like who cares what price Jewel is at? Because if Harmony has like multi-billion TVL in Q1, then imagine where DeFi Kingdoms is going to be, right? As the leading decentralized exchange. If Harmony works, my Jewel farm prints. If Harmony sucks, right? If the team keeps delaying Chainlink to 2023 or something, right? Like, which is, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. If Harmony sucks, Jewel might just expand to other ecosystems, right? You also have to be open to that possibility. Because we know that DeFi Kingdoms, they were looking at Fantom, right? And I know that I think DeFi Kingdoms were also talking to like the Avalanche ecosystem. At least the Avalanche team was like, hey, come over, you know, like the water's fine over here. So, you know, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Or if you are panicking, then like, what was your plan to begin with, right? Like, why are you in DeFi Kingdoms? For me, this is like a pseudo gaming / Harmony play, and I'm not interested in selling after a 30% dump, right? In fact, if this goes to $2, like I still wouldn't sell, right? Because this is my Harmony / gaming play. And I think Harmony is a Q4 to Q1 rotation. We're 1 month into Q4, right? Q4 to Q1, that's 6 months, right? Like you have to take a step back. You have to calm down, right? I'm sure most of you guys are fine. Most of you guys are like up a lot of money, right? Because I mean, if you got in when I talked about it, then like everyone's like up at least 2 to 3x. But you know, it's a different mindset to have, right? Because this is a farm token. It's a farm token, right? You want to think that Jewel is money in like this DeFi Kingdoms ecosystem, but you know it's still an improving game. Obviously, my bet is that you know the team will figure it out. And I am bullish gaming and decentralized finance. So if there's any exposure I want to take into gaming, I think this is a good way to do it because first of all I get exposure to Harmony and I also get exposure to gaming. So you know that's kind of how I think about it. And you know, putting this question back to you, like what role does DeFi Kingdoms play in your portfolio, right? If you're 100% long gaming plays, then you know like maybe DeFi Kingdoms like, or maybe you should like sell off your other metaverse plays or you know or whatever, right? For me, you know, it's my highest conviction farm, right? I haven't changed my narrative, I haven't changed my thesis. So you know, like, am I going to sell at 40% dump, 30% dump? No, right? I have a plan, right? My plan is to just let this be a tank, right? Just the benefit of this farm is I don't have to think about it, right? Sure, I might be able to maximize my EV if I actually like study the game more, right? If I actually like bought the Gen 0 heroes day one, I could have flipped it for like a 5x profit or whatever. But you know, for me, like, you know, my time is limited, my headspace is limited, and DeFi Kingdom is a great farm because I think it's going to be a tank, and I can just let it sit there, not worry about it, and come back in a few months, turn my brain off, and just be like, wow, I'm super proud I did it. That's kind of how I think about it. Okay, was there anything else I want to talk about? Yeah, I think that's a good point. Good spot to end it. So obviously Tranquil, I'm not deploying there yet. I might. So essentially how I'm thinking about it is like right now, there's no point putting my funds on Tranquil because like what would I do with my funds, right? Like sure I could put my ETH there or something and borrow against it, but like with those borrowed funds, like where would I put it? I don't really want to lever. I don't want to add more positions to DeFi Kingdoms because I already have a pretty hefty bag of DeFi Kingdoms. So the only way I would bridge to Harmony and deposit collateral into Tranquil is if reverse finance or reverse protocol is an interesting looking farm, right? So I'm going to admit I don't know too much about this yet. I'm kind of just relying on this AMA that we're going to have, right? The Humble Farmer Army exclusive AMA with Limmy, right? Who's a developer, who's a dev and a mod on the Humble Farmer Army Discord. Limmy also wanted to invite another developer from the Artemis team. So ideally, I think we'll have like 2 people in here. We'll ask questions. You know, It will be recorded, so if you can't make it, it's fine. 1 p.m. PST Thursday, right? I'll let you know if that changes. And then Limi promised me alpha leaks, so I'm putting pressure on Limi to provide some alpha leaks. So so not sure if I'll enter just because I don't know too much about it. But I'm just trying something new, right? Let's have developers come and then do some AMA, right? Exclusively for the private Discord. So if this is super interesting, right? If this has potential, I will bridge over to Tranquil, use my assets as collateral, borrow against it, and then enter that farm, right? That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. So summary, Harmony, Q4 to Q1 rotation means exactly that. Have some patience, right? It's okay. If you think Harmony is going to get to like $1 in Q1 or something, then let's just stick to that plan, right? Like I'm sure that meme is going to become a thing at some point, right? Maybe in Q1, right? So I still think it flips Tezos someday. In the short term, it's an immature chain that needs more time to develop. Hopefully they bring Chainlink on. Hopefully they start allocating capital, right? Because like Harmony team, like the one thing that worries me is like they're not really supporting the DeFi Kingdoms team, right? I feel like if I'm the Harmony team, I would like go out of my way to make sure that DeFi Kingdom stays in Harmony. And like make sure that they're happy, they're well taken care of, and maybe even provide incentives, right? Like Avalanche gave Trader Joe incentives, right? Because Avalanche knew that Trader Joe is super important to the ecosystem. Similarly, Harmony, the team, should also do incentives for DeFi Kingdoms. Maybe they weren't comfortable doing it for Tranquil because it was so new. I know they're going to do a tiny one for Aave and Curve, right? Curve is already out, but I feel like, I'm just like talking from an outsider, like how I would run things if I was in the Harmony team, but that's kind of how I think about it, right? Or maybe they're just waiting, right? Maybe they're giving it like a few months for the ecosystem to develop, and then once everything is ready, they're going to just like throw money on the wall. Like they're going to be like bam, 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 incentives everywhere. And to be honest, like I'm fine with that too. Like if that happens, then DeFi Kingdoms in January, February, whatever, that's going to be a great bag. So long-term mindset, I'm like turning my brain off for DeFi Kingdoms, right? It's just like, it's a gaming play, it's a Harmony play, and I like the team, I like the directions they're going for, and my YouTube metrics say that everyone's super excited for Harmony, right? Check my videos, it has a bunch of views, and I think it's a good one. Okay, that being said, let's talk about Secret Network, because I still think it's a good play. I'm like less convicted on Secret than I am on like Luna, right? And Popsicle, but I still think that I just want to bring it to your radar because I do think it's interesting, right? Privacy and DeFi. So I've often talked about how I'm not interested in the Atom token, the Cosmos token. It has no value accrual. The only use case for Atom is staking it to receive airdrops, which I guess, I guess, but I'd rather play like Luna, Secret, right? Like projects within that within the Cosmos ecosystem, and I'm prioritizing Luna because they're actual short-term catalysts, and I still think it's undervalued. Obviously, there's this event happening November 9th, right? Supernova, IVC, inter-blockchain communications, is going to be enabled for the Secret Network, meaning that secret assets can, Secret can interact with like other, blockchains, right? Like for example, Terra, right? Like maybe like privacy, private UST is going to have some utility, right? A decentralized private coin, who knows, which has a lot of hype. One thing I'm more a little worried about, like I'm not saying it's going to be a solid news, but I think maybe it could be a solid news because there's so much hype around this, and maybe the Secret Network is undervalued to begin with, so like maybe that's the reason the price is going up. But for something like this, for this exact event, I don't think the hype is justified because yes, it's longer term bullish. Long term IVC is bullish Secret, right? However, in the short term, it doesn't really enable much because if you remember, like IVC got enabled for Terra, right, which is going to be super bullish longer term, right? Because Terra is going to be able to communicate with other blockchains. But the only thing that happened was these two pools that popped up on Osmosis. These pools are pretty good, to be honest, right? Like UST Osmo, 100. Yeah, sure, but it doesn't really change the game for Luna, right? In the short term, at least. So when IVC gets enabled to Secret, like I'm sure there's gonna be some secret pools. It's gonna have high APRs, but other than that, it's not gonna do much. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't consider myself a Secret expert. So if you do own bags, if you want to own more bags, like do your own research. But that's kind of how I think about it. Right? Like Terra wasn't really anything. Before I go over to Fantom Ecosystem, I still think that Secret it's roughly $1 billion market cap. I think it could go higher. And if I want, to be honest, if I were to enter the Secret ecosystem, I would probably buy Sienna, right, which is going to be the DeFi hub of the Secret network. They're roughly a $50 million market cap. They're available on KuCoin. It's super liquid, but it's still there, right? So that's how I'll be playing it. Lastly, the Fantom ecosystem. Obviously, I sold all my Fantom. When was it? Like a week ago or something? I feel like time flies. I feel like it's been forever since I sold my Fantom, but I guess it was only like a week ago. So my exposure to the Fantom ecosystem, I guess Popsicle is like indirect exposure. I mean, not really, but that's like I have funds on Fantom, right? Like big bag of Popsicle. I'm fine letting my LQDR and like Exodia ride as a hedge in case Fantom goes off. So the way I think about LQDR and Exod is like I'm not that bullish. Let's be real. Like Exodia, like probably a bad play to be honest. But it's kind of like a levered play on Fantom where if Fantom like just goes off again to like $5, I'm sure these coins will do well. So it's a way for me to allocate less capital. It's a way for me to lock up less capital into Fantom ecosystem while still gaining upside exposure. Generally, I think the move has already played out. I don't want to FUD you out of your bags, but Fantom top 25. I think that was the top. It doesn't mean that like Fantom is gonna just go down, right? I'm just saying in the short term, in the short to midterm, maybe the move has already played out. I love the ecosystem, right? I do think they could be a top 20 token, but I still think it needs more time. It needs more time. So yeah, I don't want to FUD you out of your position, but that's how I think about it, right? And it kind of makes sense like when I sold my Fantom, but I still think this farm is insane, right? 30% on dollars earning spell. I have $1,000 worth of spell. Obviously, I would have made much more money if I just market bought spell, but it's all about risk management, right? It's like because these dollars are essentially like borrowed funds from money markets like Geist and Aave and whatnot. And last thing, let's talk about a few things actually, because we kind of touched on Joe. So Avalanche announced this like $200 million Blizzard ecosystem fund for development. I mean, this is bullish, right? I mean, they started with the Avalanche Rush, and now they're essentially going to be funding developers, which I think is a better way to do it for the longer term sustainability of the project. So Avalanche, obviously, their team is loaded. I mean, their treasury is like filled with tokens, right? So like if the token goes up, then obviously like they have more money to play with. So $200 million, that's a lot of money. It's backed by a bunch of, Ava Labs, Polychain, 3. These are like big guys, right? So I'm not sure what the timeline is on this one. Price didn't really react favorably to this. It didn't react unfavorably, but it didn't really react favorably, if that makes sense. I would say that if there's anything that this is bullish on, I think this is going to be bullish on time, because I feel like if it weren't for Wonderland, like Avalanche would be a really like boring chain, right? It's like Trader Joe and time is like the only thing that's interesting, right, on the Avalanche ecosystem. Avalanche maxis don't hate me, but I feel like it's true. And the fact that time hasn't really received incentives, I don't know. They don't really need incentives, right? They have so much money. They have 260 million in the treasury, so they don't really need incentives. But I feel like part of this might go to Danny, right? In fact, I feel like it should go to Danny, right? Like I feel like Danny is the hottest developer in DeFi, right? He's like the most exciting thing that's happened in DeFi. So just give him some money, right? Just be like, hey, Danny, like thanks for building. Here's $10 million. Do stuff like that. And to touch on time, I do want to mention one thing. That time isn't gonna. It was never intended to just be an Olympus fork, right? I think the way to think about it is that the Olympus fork method, right, like staking it and like time, like memo, all that stuff, is a way to build out the treasury, right? Because this started from like essentially zero, and now it's at $260 million. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. And what Danny plans is for this to become a DAO, right? A decentralized autonomous organization. So at some point, I think this entire project is gonna just like pivot to something else, and I believe it's essentially a DAO is like it's I think it's gonna be a way for like Danny and like I guess the DAO to like invest in other protocols, right? Maybe in the Avalanche ecosystem, maybe they expand to Fantom, invest in those ecosystems. To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm not a DAO expert, so I can't really comment on like what the future is gonna be, right? I'm not Danny, but just understand that, you know, it's not always going to be a known fork, which I think is good, right? I think Danny deserves to be like a benevolent dictator, right? I think he should do whatever he wants with this treasury, just because everything he's touched is like has turned to gold. So, you know, I mean, you know, just understand that, right? So you're not really caught off guard. I don't know when they're gonna pivot and stuff, but you know, just to understand. So lastly, kind of want to talk about Beethoven. Let me actually look at so let's go here. So obviously I feel like it's interesting because Beethoven, 200 million in TVL, right? And the market cap is 11 million. And obviously, you know, I don't really think Beethoven's going to be like the #1 DEX on the Fantom ecosystem. I think they're always going to be number 3 behind Spooky and Spirit. I guess a more interesting conversation is like, can Spirit flip Spooky? I don't know. But, you know, I think it is interesting because it's a really low market cap. And part of the reason is that there's like zero value accrual to the Beats token. So I made a video this morning about stablecoin farmers here, right? And I'm like, yeah, like there's no value accrual. And someone in the Discord, in the Humble Farmer Army, sent me a link about like, hey, like the Beats tokenomics is going to change, right? There's going to be value accrual at some point. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's go into it. So this is a Medium article. I believe the fees that the protocol earns is going to be redistributed back to token holders. So I believe 50% of protocol fees is going to go back to like people that's providing liquidity for the Beats pool, right? Or 30% is here. So I'm not, like, you have to do your own research, but part of it is going to go back to the Beats liquidity providers, right? So, you know, rewarding people that's taking on the Beats exposure. There's also going to be a way to stake your Beats, like X Beats, to earn protocol fees. So I just thought it was interesting, right? Like I mentioned, they're going to be the number 3 DEX, so you know I wouldn't expect them to like go to $100 million market cap or something. But maybe, you know, the valuation here is cheap. Maybe. Not too interested right now, right? But I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it. What could be a good way to gain exposure is maybe putting it into maybe like the Beats Phantom pool or the Beats USDC pool, right? Like earning 400 to 620%. And if you think that there might be value accrual in the future, it might make sense like just farm it, right? And just, you know, just like once people start buying this token, just like sell into that. Who knows? There's also the roadmap too. You know, they're playing like the music meme well. Yeah, I believe they're also going to do like a liquidity bootstrapping pool as a service. Yeah, it's not liquidity balance pool, it's liquidity bootstrapping pool as a service. Just putting it into your radar in case you were interested, right? Because yeah, like I'm not really bullish this token, but 11 million is like pretty cheap, right? But maybe it's like Terra, right? Like Terra has like 200 million TVL and the market cap is like really low. Maybe it's one of those tokens that can lock up TVL, but the token never accrues value. So there's that. What else do I want to talk about? I think that's about it. Let's see. ICE is $36. It's a big candle. Yeah, I'm just like, no, I think Bitcoin and Ether, my core positions. Bullish Luna, you know, super bullish Luna. Catalyst coming up. Secret is interesting. The price has held up pretty well actually, despite like the recent correction and whatnot. Obviously, this is like vertical accumulation, so you know, I can't in good faith say like, oh, this is a great buy, but if the supernova thing is a solid news, then you know, I feel like anything under $6 is like is gonna be a pretty good buy in the grand scheme of things. But you have to understand that like Secret is like super new, right? So it's gonna take time to develop. So I kind of think of it as like a Q4, Q1 play too. So you have to have a longer time horizon on these ones. And generally, with Fantom and the AVAX, like those rotations, they were pretty time sensitive, right? Like when the Avalanche rotation happened initially, like you literally barely had time to rotate, right? Because this is a daily chart. Like literally, it went up. I don't even know, because August 16th was when the Benki thing was announced, right? And then it just like went up 200% in 9 days, insane, or 8 days, insanity. Like it was very, very time intensive, right? And for Fantom, it was also time intensive because Geist launched, and like you either got in or you didn't, right? You either got in or you didn't. So these were time-intensive rotations. But the other rotations now, right, are less time-intensive. Maybe Luna, because mid-November is Astroport. Maybe that, but like Harmony, you know, like I wouldn't like think of this as bearish, right? I just think that maybe it got too hot too soon, and it just takes more time to develop, right? I mean, if this ever drops like 20 cents, I'll definitely buy. But I guess I'm also comfortable with my Harmony exposure, just like DeFi Kingdoms, right? I kind of went over my thought process there. And no secret in Sienna. I do think Sienna is, I mean, it's you can go on KuCoin to buy it, and you can withdraw to the Sienna application from KuCoin, right? So if I do buy it, it's going to be there. Shortly, I guess in summary, I don't think there's anything that you need to buy now, emergency video. You know, there's nothing like that, right? It's more like depending on like your portfolio, like how do you want to be positioned, right? Do you want to be positioned for Luna? Do you want to be positioned for Harmony? Do you want to position yourself for Bitcoin and Ether, right? I mean, no one has an answer, no one has a crystal ball, but I think it's a good time to like just do some research this week and like figure out like what do you want exposure to. Because Solana also looks good, right? Like I'm not really a fan of Solana farms, but I mean TA wise, like I mean, this is super bullish, right? It's consolidating around past all-time highs. I guess it's similar to Bitcoin and Ether too. I also think Avalanche. I feel like Avalanche too, right? There has to be some rotation back to Avalanche at some point. I mean, it hasn't done much. It hasn't done anything since like October, like right. And the Avalanche rush is coming. And I think that, you know, one of the reasons they're doing this is because they're like, damn, like we gave away all the money to like projects bridging over from Ethereum, but we need more original projects. Maybe, yeah, like I mentioned, this, I think part of this should go to Danny. But you know, I feel like more apps are going to launch soon on Avalanche, which could be a positive catalyst. But you know, I mean, I've been following it, but nothing outside of Wonderland and Trader Joe excites me on the Avalanche ecosystem. And until that changes, I don't really see a huge rotation happening on Avalanche, because Avalanche has to compete with other protocols, right? Like Avalanche has to compete with, you know, Luna, like launching Astroport soon. Avalanche has to compete with like maybe Bitcoin and Ether, like catching a bit. Avalanche has to compete with like, you know, maybe people want to rotate into the Harmony ecosystem. So that's kind of how I think about it. I was never bullish AVAX, and I still think that like I think the best way to gain exposure to Avalanche is like Wonderland, because I think the treasury, I think 75% of the treasury is the Avalanche token. I could be wrong on that, right? Like I mean, I could be wrong on that, but the majority of the treasury is the Avalanche token. So if the Avalanche token does well, then you know the treasury does well, and then the backing per time goes up, and it just becomes this reflexive loop of like, oh, it's so cheap, you know, compared to just think about the narratives, right? Oh, Frog Nation. So I still think time is a good way to play it. Just don't think of this as a standard own fork. It's an own fork. It's a project that started out as an own fork to build out a treasury, and using this treasury, it's going to become a DAO, and the DAO will become something bigger. Who knows, right? It's pretty exciting. You know, obviously I do want exposure to this. I just haven't found the capital, right? Like I'm not made of money. And in crypto, you can't own everything you want to own. In an ideal world, I own a bunch of these things, but I just can't, right? So, and also like if you own like 15 projects, it's going to be way too hard to keep up with anything. So that's why I'm kind of concentrating myself on Luna, and also, I guess Luna ecosystem, and doing more research on like what could be coming up next. Yeah. Okay, that being said, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this video is useful, and have fun farming out there, and let me know what your thoughts are.